It's time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. Happy holidays to everyone. We're in that time between Christmas, between New Year's, where there's a lot of sports going on, a lot of football, a lot of basketball, and some big horse racing this weekend at Gulfstream Park, and Santa Anita has their opening weekend. I'm Gino Buccola alongside Pete Rotondo, who's going to be joining us this week. Pete, very happy to be talking with you. We've gone back and forth a few times, but never really sat down and done a show like this. Pete is the SVP of Racing and Wagering for First. So, Pete, why don't you talk a little bit about First and give us a little intro?
Sure. Thanks, Gino. Great to be here. First is the owner of Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita Park, along with the Preakness in Maryland. They own First Bet, Express Bet, the ADWs you make your bets on. There's a big tech company and a lot of content comes out of the group. My focus, Gulfstream and Santa Anita.
In Gulfstream Park, we just saw open up about a month ago, so their big championship meet is racing. We're going to talk about the big race at Gulfstream this weekend, the Mr. Prospector. That'll be our first segment. We're going to go horse by horse. Then in our second segment, we'll do a little pick five for the late sequence at Gulfstream Park. That includes that Mr. Prospector. And in our final segment, we'll talk about Santa Anita. They just had their opening day. I was out there, 40,000 plus people. It was a blast. We saw some big stars, Pete. It was a great gambling day too. So we'll talk Santa Anita in our final segment. But for now, let's get to business. Let's get on over to Gulfstream Park and let's talk about the Mr. Prospector. And Pete, the reason why we picked this race out, we get to look at a Breeders' Cup Classic winner from 2023, White Barrio, who's the headliner in this race. But we'll meet him in just a moment. Let's start with Play Me a Tune, the number one, who draws the inside. This is the Mr. Prospector, 7 furlongs on the dirt. Why I thought this horse was a tricky read, Pete, we've never seen him on the dirt. He's been on the synthetic and on the turf. He's been really talented, but he's done his work up at Woodbine. He hasn't run in a few months, and now he comes down, he draws the rail in a tough spot on the surface that he's never been. So I think a lot of question marks about him.
Yeah, so I looked into that. I went to DRF Formulator and I clicked on the pedigree profiles, and I noticed that the mom of Play Me Tune's mom was 7 for 14 on the dirt.
Yeah.
So what half? I mean, that's 50% wins on the dirt is impressive. The dad, of course, sire Jackie's Warrior, Drain the Clock, Complexity, all classy dirt sprinters. So I feel like the dirt breeding might be there. If he could sit a trip, it's going to be tough on the inside. Although sometimes they figure out that rail trip at Gulfstream and then make that little move. I think he might have a shot at about 12-1.
Yeah, he should offer you some really nice value, and we know he has a high ceiling if he can transfer that form over and work out a trip. Kind of an X factor. I'm treating him in this race. Now, you and I both think there's an interesting long shot in the number 2, Mr. Skylight. I liked his race visually last time out. He's going to have to step up. This is a tougher group, but he's lightly raced, and I feel like he's in good form coming off that win.
Yeah, I was at Gulfstream that day. He had a perfect trip. Again, but showing that improvement. I love Riley Mott. He really, is taken after his old man, of course, the Hall of Famer Bill Mott, and he gets these horses to peak at the right time. He's rounding to form, like you said. The last year, he's got a race over the track. He was inside that day. He's going to be inside this day. Going to have to step up, but I think again at a price could sneak in there.
Super Chow, we kind of know what we're going to get from him. He's very fast. He's a multiple graded stakes winner. He has won at 7 furlongs before, but I feel like he's a little better going shorter. But you'll get that good speed from him.
Yeah, 100%. And the idea that he's very classy older horse. I feel like he's an older horse. He's running so many races. He's not that old. I think he's 4, but he's going to go to the lead. He loves it wet. He needs some wetness in that racetrack. It might be a sprinkle at some point on Saturday. I guess keep an eye on that, especially if you're going to get somewhere near the morning line at 20-1.
Now you could upgrade him because he'll be out front winging it. At least maybe a horse you could use underneath. Gordian Knot will move into the Todd Pletcher barn for the first time. He's a Pennsylvania bred who's grade 2 placed. Most of his best work have come at those Pennsylvania tracks. But hey, when you move into the Pletcher barn, you're always going to assume a little bit of improvement.
Yeah, I agree. I think he might need some time to figure this one out. I think he's a cut below, off I think we let him beat us, I think.
We got to see one from him before we probably want to warm up to him. Real Macho had a couple good efforts at Gulfstream Park earlier this year. He's kind of a feast or famine horse, but he's done his best work right here.
Yeah, and he's been running with straight 3-year-olds the whole year. Now he steps up with the older horses. Again, not sure he's fast enough down the road. Maybe, but not on Saturday.
Mufasa is my son Milo's pick, who's now 5 years old. He loves this one. I've watched The Lion King over and over and over again. I initially, when I handicapped this race, I was thinking about looking at Mufasa. The problem I had, Pete, if you're going to take a shot against White Abarrio, I think you probably want a better price. And I'm just not sure how good that Vosberg was, which was his big win. It seemed like kind of a weaker version of the Vosberg. So I respect a lot of what he's done, but I think I want a little more value if I'm trying to go against White Abarrio here.
I totally agree. And there's a stat out there. The horse, he's coming out of the Breeders' Cup. Of course, the Breeders' Cup, the best horses in the world all run. They all get together. Horses coming out of the Breeders' Cup have not been doing well.
Yes.
At all. Like, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 wins, and you're talking over like 50, 60 horses have run. I think that, it could be an anomaly. How does that happen? Why does it happen? Maybe you focus on that major goal, the Super Bowl, so to speak, and then somehow you have to go play the next week, or a couple of weeks later, you kind of bounce. He's coming out of that race, shipping back east. I didn't love the Vosberg. Again, same thing you said. I'm going to try to beat him, and I think he's going to end up being second choice.
El Principito, he just looks a little bit overmatched. His wins have been against maiden claimers and against first level allowance. This is just like a big, tough step up for him.
Yeah, doesn't belong was my comment.
Yeah. Little Vic has shown big races. He's a graded stakes winner, and he's probably one of the major speeds in here.
Yeah, I think Little Vic is going to help get maybe one of my long shots in. I think he's going to show some speed it up with Mr. Chow, Super Chow, Mr. Chow, Super Chow. Mr. Chow's a good spot in the city.
Yeah.
But I don't. Yeah, he could surprise from time to time, Little Vic, but I don't think. I think it's a little bit too much to ask for.
And then we have a Luminaire who was an impressive winner last time out. He's won 3 of his 4. I'm a little worried that he might get overbet because on paper, he looks like a real interesting horse. And I'm not sure how tough some of the company he's beat, but I respect the heck out of him and in particular the connections.
Yeah, I agree. He will be overbet. I think. I also think, same thing. He won last time. He was supposed to win. The field wasn't that great. It's Pletcher. I think he's gonna, with Saez up, he's gonna keep him a little closer and might wind up into that little speed duel. Yep. I'm gonna try to beat him again. I think we got to try to beat the second, third, or fourth choices here.
Especially if we were going to play White Abarrio, who looks so good in here. The Florida Derby winner, the Breeders' Cup Classic winner. He came back to Gulfstream Park where he has his home base, and he just looked good. He's 6 for 7 at Gulfstream. And as you were pointing out with the Breeders' Cup, they took a different approach with him. They went to a softer race to kind of get that confidence back up. And now I think he's going back in the right direction after a couple disappointing races this year. This was your 2023 Breeders' Cup Classic winner. His ceiling is so high.
Yeah, he loves Gulfstream. He's 5 for 6 at Gulfstream, won the Florida Derby a couple of years ago. This is his home track, and they're doing exactly the right way to get this horse down the road, running these 7 furlongs. This is like an old school move they used to do in the old days. Easy goers. I remember they used to run at 7 furlongs before they stretched out. But bottom line is, I always like to try to beat the favorite. I just can't see it. He's already in good form, and he should have sit an absolute dream trip with Irad Ortiz.
The key is, if you can't beat the favorite and you still want to try to find value in the race, can we find some horses underneath that are big prices? You think Shaq Diesel has a little bit of a shot, and even the outside horse, Carmel Chip. I'm a Laker fan. I love the big daddy, Shaq Diesel. Talk to us about these outside couple and why you would use them underneath.
Yeah, well, here's the way. It's all about pace makes the race, right? I think Super Chow, Little Vic, maybe a Luminaire, they're all going to eventually hook up mid-race, and I hope for the pace to get really hot. And anybody close to it is going to fall back. And if that's the case, White Abarrio makes his move, opens up, and now I just want the horses to come try to get a piece, to try to suck up the pieces down the lane. Shaq Diesel has a nice closing kick. Caramel Chip does as well. They're going to be huge prices. They're 30 to 1 on the morning line. I just see the race kind of falling apart from a pace scenario, and maybe some of these can suck up second and third.
Let's take a look at the selections for this one. Pete's going to put White Abarrio on top of some prices that he'll use in the Super. Be a little more logical underneath, but we're both going to key in on White Abarrio. We'll talk more about him in our Pick 5 segment next. Make sure that all of you out there take a look at the offer we have for the SportsGrid viewers. Free all-access past performances when you use the promo code DRFSGPPs. We'll be right back and talk Gulfstream Pick 5 for Saturday. Okay, so it's time to talk a little bit about the late pick 5 sequence for Saturday at Gulfstream Park. If you want to follow along with us, we're going to head out to Gulfstream. We're going to start in race number 7. We already talked about that Mr. Prospector. That's going to go as race 10, right in the middle of our pick 5. Pete, it's either going to be a good Saturday or a bad Saturday for the both of us, because when you sent me your pick 5 ticket, I didn't have to make many changes at all. We were seeing the ball very similar for Saturday. So fingers crossed. Hopefully we're going to be on the same page as we start in race number 7. We went 1, 2, 4, and 5. And we talk about the 1, Burnham Square, the 2, and the 4. Those are the horses that you pointed out and we both use. I think just super logical horses here. But it's kind of a tricky race when you have a first-time starter like Only in America going long. That's never easy.
No, but again, it's Pletcher and Irad. To kick off the pick 5, you have no reason to throw them out, right? It's
Absolutely.
like those guys win at a hefty clip, so you got to use them.
Yep.
Almost on defense for that, because you just don't know. I mean, I think the one horse, um, the one Burnham
Burnham
Square,
Square.
coming off super fast race last time. Buyer speed figure 83, blinkers on, third race of his life, inside post going 2 turns. I mean, there's so many things to like. Shipping in from Churchill. We'll see what happens there. The long shot I think that I like is the 4, Word
Absolutely.
on the Street. Again, I was at Gulfstream last time for this race. He made almost like a winning move at a big price, flattened out a little bit. Again, he gets better with every race. Buyers keep going up. I think you got to use him. Could get lucky, especially if the one, isn't great coming in from Churchill, and Only in America is not ready to run.
And what's nice about Word on the Street, we've seen the progression in each race
Yeah.
from this horse, who now should be fit, getting the mile and a 16th for the first time as far as he's ever gone. The only one that I had to add in here, I added the 5 On a Rush, because there's not that much proven speed in this race, especially if the first time starter doesn't come out of the gate firing with speed. And a lot of times these horses that debut going longer aren't the quickest early. So if some of these horses aren't alert, I could see the 5 On a Rush with Saez just being forward in there and maybe taking advantage. So we threw the 5 in as well, along with the 1, 2, and 4. So we'll be 4 deep trying to make it out of race number 7 at Gulfstream Park. We turn the page to race number 8. This is a 5-furlong turf sprint. It's the Abundantia. And Pete, what I was thinking when I was handicapping this race was, I got to find a horse who can sit off the pace a little bit, because there is so much speed. And I think we found one way to the outside here, right? With the number 12.
Yeah, 12, Twirling Queen. You got Jose D'Angelo, Luis Saez. They won last time at Del Mar. In a exact same trip I'm looking for.
Yep.
Sort of outside. I mean, it was inside, then surge clear. I think the horse is the fastest horse in the race on the numbers. Gonna sit a nice trip. Because if you don't go, you have to single somewhere. Because if you don't go with just him or her, you're gonna wind up spreading, and the ticket's gonna get unwieldy. So I was trying to find the one that made most sense to me. And again, I like the outside trip on the turf. Actually, it's sprinting at Gulfstream. You stay in the clear and just sweep by at the end.
Exactly. We don't mind being a little bit wide with her in this race. We'd rather be a little bit wide in the clear. She's going to make her 3rd start of the form cycle. And while we both want her to be off the pace, what's nice, she has that natural tactical speed where she's not going to be that far out of it. She's going to be within striking range. That's exactly what we want. We're going to single the 12, Twirling Queen. And then we move to race number 9. It's a mile and a 16th on the synthetic. You can honestly go through this field of 9 and use every single one of them. I mean, Skyro, Jerry the Nipper, Yamato, Fly the W's a 20-time winner. You have a horse like Ruse, who wasn't that far behind Jerry the Nipper, and Ruse is 20-1 on the morning line. So Pete, we were going to go all. Instead of going all, let's just chuck out the chalk in here. We'll go all but 8, because we single in on a couple of favorites. Any one in particular, or anything else you want to mention about this 9th race where we're spreading out?
Honestly, no. I was a scramble for me. I just, every horse seemed I could make a case for, and when that's the case, I'm not gonna. I'll try to limit the throwouts, and I like the way you did that, because again, if we have a couple of favorites going in, we don't need 5 favorites in a row. Clearly, yeah, that's the spot to take the shot against them.
We're looking for some value here in race number 9. This is where we demand that value. And then we'll flip the page to race number 10. We talked about the Mr. Prospector here, and it just came down for me to, okay, if I'm not going to be just using White Barrio, who are some of the other horses that I'm going to use? And remember, if you do that, you're going to double or triple your ticket up. and I looked at Mufasa, I looked at maybe Illuminaire, I looked at some of them. I just haven't seen enough from those horses yet to put them on like even terms with White Abario. We talked about the pattern he's coming in. I just like so much about what they're doing and how they've handled him. We're both just fine with singling White Abario here.
Yeah, again, not normally my move, right? Singling a 3 to 5 shot is not what I like to do, but he just stands out because then, like you said, if not him, then who? And those you just mentioned, we're not that confident in. And the long shots I used in my super, I don't really think they could win. I think
They're
they could
underneath
get compete.
horses.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
exactly.
what, Pete, I'm the same way. And a lot of people who have watched these shows have seen like us with the way we put the pick fives together. But the key point that you just mentioned out, I don't think you need to have a template as a pick five or pick four player because every sequence is different, right?
Right.
Yesterday, for
Oh,
example, at Santa Anita, there was a late pick five with a couple of heavy favorites, Johannes and She Feels Pretty. I singled both of them. The pick five still paid $400 because
yeah.
we were doing exactly what we're doing here. I had a $60 ticket, got back 400 with two heavy favorites singled in the sequence. So sometimes it's just about the approach as much as it is about trying to find the value in places that it's not there, right?
Yeah, 100%. You got it exactly.
Let's close things out. We go to Gulfstream Park, race number 11. This one, I think we could find a little bit of value too. I mean, you started out with the one horse Aspen Dawn. This horse had a trouble trip last time out.
Yeah, no, had a horrible trip last time out, and I was like, again, I like the inside, obviously inside going 2 turns on the grass, sable the ground, hopefully tip out. Checked, yeah, had a bad check in that race. Look for her, to come back. You got catalyzed. Chad Brown broke his maiden at Aqueduct, coming to run at Gulfstream. He's not having the best meet so far, but it's Chad, it's Tyler Gaffalione, Klarovich. I feel like you have to use the numbers fit. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's the horse I think to probably catch are going to be very forwardly placed in here. The 6 Lady Mary will add the blinkers. The 11 Candy Gray, super logical. Look at that two-back turf race. And then I threw in Source, who's a bit of a price. So altogether, what's that pick 5 ticket look like, folks? It's going to be $80 when we put it all together. We have a single of the 12, Twirling Queen, and a single of White Abario. When we return from this quick break, we'll move from Gulfstream Park over to Santa Anita. We'll talk about the great race place. Okay, after we hit that Gulfstream Park pick 5, we're going to have some money left over and we're going to head out to Santa Anita on Saturday. A couple stakes races out there, Pete. Real quick, I was at Santa Anita on opening day. It was a fantastic day. I mean, 40,000 plus. And what was great, Pete, we got to see some of the stars show up. Horses like Johannes, we were talking about, horses like She Feels Pretty. But there were also great gambling opportunities earlier in the day. JB Strikes Back at a huge price. We had a Copian winner at 35 to 1. So we got that mixture. What we want as gamblers, some good gambling results, but also the big stars showing up.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it was the third most successful opening day in history. 20 million plus was bet. Half a million was bet into almost half a million into the pick 6, which is now a $2 bet again, which we're trying to make sure everybody knows about. And then you're right, Frankie Dettori, the world's best, comes, and of course he has to put on a show. And Flavian Pratt, with the most victories,
Setting
graded
records.
stakes ever, beat Jerry Bailey's record, 56 in a year. So it was awesome to see.
A lot of news coming out of the day. The key is let's get the people coming back and let's keep the money coming back to Santa Anita each and every day. Let's head on out there and take a look at the Joe Hernandez. I love the downhill turf course at Santa Anita. It's so unique. It's such a great turf course that lures people in from all over because it's just different. And in this particular race, you're going to have one of those horses that we talked about, Pete, a horse coming back from the Breeders' Cup, a horse who probably had the Breeders' Cup as their big target. So a lot of times when that's the case, the race afterwards, they're not as sharp. Maybe maybe they're a little bit duller. Motorius is going to take a lot of money in here. We're both trying to beat him.
Yeah, I'm trying to beat him. I think you have to. Again, based on what we said earlier, Breeders' Cup horses, they're just not running back as successful. I mean, he's a really nice horse,
Absolutely.
but I could see him run second just as,
And he's a deep
and
closer too, right? So
right.
on top of
Yeah,
that, he needs the trip and everything.
totally.
Who you're looking at, I think, to the outside towards the 7 as a play
I'm
in
going
here.
with the 7. Yeah, Central Dispatch. Uh, I think he's going to sit right behind the 2, Code Duello, who's a horse shipping in from Los Alamitos. He's going to have the lead. He's going to be like target practice. He sits right there like during a workout, take off around the far turn and open up. You got Flavian Pratt. We just talked about breaking all types of records for John Sadler. He'll sit an ideal, perfect trip, and I think he's going to get it. He's improving with every race, and the price is right.
What I liked about him too in his last start, he missed the breaks. It was the first time he had to sort of come from off the pace, and he showed, yep, no problem doing that. I completely agree with you. I'd love to see him sitting second or third just off the pace, and that's where I hope the 1 Air Force Red is going to be too. He's a real hill horse. He has 3 wins down the hill. He likes it, and I think with his running style, he's a horse who likes to go fast. Doesn't really want to be grabbed a hold of. So down the hill, it's perfect for him because he can kind of just sit off and build that momentum up and have a little bit of late kick. So I'll look towards the 1 Air Force Red. Pete will look towards the 7 to try to take a little swing against Notorious. We have one more stakes race on Saturday at Santa Anita. It's going to be in the 8th race. We have 2-year-old fillies in the Blue Norther. This is an exciting one because you see some of these young horses going long on the turf. Pete, you and I are both going to look at horses who had a ton of trouble last time out. The one that you're going to go to, Super Speed. If you're looking at the daily racing form in the past performances, you know it's a really bad trip when it just says brutal trip. It can't even explain all of the trouble this horse had.
Oh yeah, was making a winning move up the inside and just stopped. Totally got in trouble. They couldn't move. Whatever, eased up and flattened out a bit. That of course is a good sign moving forward, right? Because the horse has the ability, just had a bad trip, and now who does he pick up? Flavian Pratt. So you got Pratt and Sadler again. I'm going back to the well. He's got the 2 races before that horse had run. Either one gets the job done, I think.
Yep.
And again, 3-1, I'll take it. Nothing wrong with plus 300.
Offering you very nice value there. I'll go just above you at the plus 400, 4-1 price of the number 7 Resolve, who also had a very tough trip, was inside, was trying to move off the rail and just had absolutely nowhere to go. Got shuffled back, lost some positioning, wasn't that far behind Will Then and Castelou, who will probably be the favorite and the horse to beat in here. So we'll both look for a little bit of value. Maybe we can beat the shorter price here. I went with the 7 Resolve, and Pete is going to go with the 5 Super Speed. So that's going to do it for us this week. Before we go, though, we want to remind everyone out there, all of you watching, you can get free all-access past performances. So we've been looking at the Timeform US past performances. If you're someone who just likes the old daily racing form that you've seen at the tracks, we've got that for you, too. That's classic. And then the Formulator past performances let you click on race replays, let you click on charts. Pete, it's been such a blast talking with you. I look forward to handicapping more Gulfstream and Santa Anita with you in the future.
Thanks, Gino. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
Shout out to producer Rich and producer Mike. Hope you feel better, Mike. Hope everyone has a great new year, and we'll see you back here next week, same time.